So my first big girl job with Fox Sports Ohio and the Cavs, from 2012 through the 2018 6 years that I was there, I was a part of so much, right? Taking it all in, being around. My first couple of years, I wasn't allowed in practice from my position as a sideline reporter and a TV rights holder partner. But once things kind of shifted, management changed, there was an opportunity to sit in practice, and it coincided with LeBron returning to Cleveland. So in 2014, I was at practice every single day. I truly could probably give you on one hand the amount of days that I had missed. Sitting in practice every day, traveling with a team, I was just around. And with that came the opportunity to host Road Trippin. At the time, had no idea what that would look like. Going back to 2017, I know there was some kind of conversations when we were working with JJ Redick before he became the Laker head coach of who actually had the first athlete-driven podcast. That's up for debate. We like to claim it's us with Road Trippin, but at the time it really wasn't around, right? From current athletes sitting down, putting a headset on, and just talking. And so I was at practice, and Richard Jefferson came up after practice one day, just over on the sideline, and just said, "Hey, I had an idea. I was thinking about doing a podcast. Would you host it?" And at first I said no. I like right away. I was like, absolutely not. Because I'm shy. I'm more introverted, and I like to think. And I knew that there was an opportunity. It's a lot of talking over the course of an hour, right? And it kind of scared me a little bit, but he's like, "Hey, let's try a little mock run. We'll have Channing as our first guest, and we'll see how it goes." Obviously, the team was on a high. They were in their quest to run it back as NBA champs that following season. So we're sitting in Utah. We gather our Spanish radio guy, Rafa, to do all the audio stuff. We put one microphone in a wine glass, and we just all kind of shouted in it. Then we were like, let's try and make this happen for real. So about a week later, we're in Golden State, and we're sitting there and in the athletic trainer's hotel room. And Kyrie came, knocks on the door. He was coming to get treatment. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Well, we're sitting down. We're trying to do this podcast. You want to join?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll take a listen," for about 10, 15 minutes. Next thing you know, an hour has gone by, and we just ran with it. It wasn't until that moment that we even came up with the name Road Trippin'. And from there, we dropped it the next morning. I'll never forget. We stayed over in San Francisco. We all got on the plane for that long flight back to Ohio. And by the time we landed, it was as if we took the NBA world by firestorm. Like, what is this? You're getting guys sitting down talking about life, not just X's and O's, not just basketball. You're giving us an inside look. And that was one episode. And so from there, it kind of took off. But that's how Road Trippin' started. And to think back that to look back now and think that I possibly could have passed up that opportunity. I kick myself every once in a while, but it's still going, it's strong. And that's how it originated. In fact, I will give you this, our head of PR at the time, Tad Carper, he helped us come up with, if not, he gave us the name Road Trippin'. He was like, "Look, this is y'all's idea. But if you need a name," it was kind of one of those things, and he gave it, and we ran with it. I mean, there's been an opportunity to change it, and we're like, no, why would we do that? So for them to even accept and embrace the idea from Richard, but then also have a little bit of a hand in it, I'll forever thank Tad Carper for that name. Yeah, let me specify. Not the locker room, practices.
Practice,
So
yeah. So like,
yeah.
what was that about? Is that like something because you were a woman, or like was it
No,
because of
no.
like a sewer? Like, well,
I actually would say back then, since I'm on the studio side, I'm a little bit more removed from the day-to-day element as a broadcaster. But back then, I would say it was more uncommon to be able to sit in practice.
oh,
You
okay,
could go
okay,
as a media member at the end and you conduct the interviews, right? And you get to talk to the select players. We got to sit in practice. And I mean, that was I believe, maybe unheard of, or
yeah.
just not the most common thing. So it was an incredible opportunity, which is large in part why I didn't want to pass that up. Just because it's not that you're gonna give anything away. I mean, you're watching guys go at it and in terms of like the day-to-day grind and the X's and O's and the game planning, you can't go deliver that on a broadcast, but it certainly helps give reference and point of place when you're talking about a team that you are their home network every single night. So that's yeah, that's the clarification there. I think because back then, like I had mentioned, there was just you really weren't getting that from current players, right? Across any kind of profession. And so from that standpoint, I think what we've all come to learn too, especially when speaking of just the founders of Richard and Channing, we obviously have Kendrick Perkins now a part of the family, but at that time, those two love to talk. They've got dynamic personalities. They've got stories to tell. They've been around the league for so long. They're intelligent and their ability to story tell, which I think is what the podcast space offers, obviously, right? There was no producer, there was no script. In fact, I not only did I host Rafa for the first year, ran the audio technical side, but then I was the editor. And I helped. I was the editor from a standpoint of Rafa would make the hard cuts, but when we're talking about what to release, this is where also trust came into a play, and where you saw guys. We would land in cities, and they would ask the guys, their teammates on the plane before we touched down, "Hey, we're about to record Road Trippin. We'll get you the room number. You want to be our guest this week?" And that's how it happened. And then we would all come together. We would tell stories. Our motto since inception has been no one tells our stories better than us. We also create a very, very safe space that is held since 2017, despite the evolution of Road Trippin, which I can touch on in a moment. But how it started, as you can imagine, with no structure, but tons of stories to tell, just about anything would come out. So it was on me to then follow up. Are you sure you want this out there? It's easy to sit down. All of us enjoy a glass of wine. You know what happens when wine starts to flow, conversations, you know. And there were a few times where we've had to take things out of respect to the guys' teammates, out of respect to the human side of just who we are, right? But that freedom to be able to sit there in a safe space and just talk, that was natural. Kind of to what you said, it was organic. There was no plan, there was no structure, there was none of us sitting down saying, you got to talk about this. It just casually came up in conversation. Now, that has since evolutionized a little bit based off of where we are and how Road Trippin has kind of transformed with the times. But that was the beautiful part. And the one thing that I loved so much was no matter who was sitting down with us, it was like a new story being told and a new, like, kind of peek behind the curtain of who these people are, who these athletes are as people. Yeah, absolutely. Road Trippin changed the trajectory of my career. I say that hands down, which is probably why I sit here and think, had I said no or not taken a chance to step outside of my comfort zone, where would my career be? I get recognized more times than not, until as of lately, having that opportunity to call the Lakers game, but also be a part of the Lakers network. I would get noticed and recognized as, hey, you're Allie, or you're that girl from Road Trippin'. So not only from the eyes, the visual kind of thing, and how that's kind of changed my career and impacted my career, but you kind of touch on something, and I think this is where you were getting at too. There was a fine balance between a podcaster and a broadcaster. There is, right? There's a casualness, there's an aspect we all love that is presented with podcasting, and then there's maybe a little bit more of a buttoned up, tightened kind of approach to the broadcasting space. And that's something that I continue to learn. I continue to obviously have to grow with, using my voice, finding times while hosting and keeping the ship afloat. I like to say with my guys, of also not stepping on their toes, letting them speak. They're the experts, they're the athletes, they're the experienced guys, right? That people want to hear from. So for me personally, it's still always I'm kind of in the progress of still learning and growing, in the process of still learning and growing every day, balancing the role from broadcasting to podcasting. But I think what I've found is that they can really benefit one another. And that's a win for me. I think it's crazy too. You touched on obviously me being a college basketball player and having played that my entire life. I prided myself on being a versatile player. And so I think in this professional space on the other side of things, I get to look at what I do. And to your point, you get to change things up. It's versatility, right? They're completely different roles, even though it's in the same world. Yeah, how I carry myself, my cadence, how I show up, my appearance. There's a difference, but it's also versatility that I love. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question because we're in the midst of it right now. Not to mention we're coming off a handful of years where we were trying to find and land. I'd like to believe where we are now. So it's not. I love when people are like, "I want to start a podcast." I'm like, "Oh, do you? Let's talk. Let's talk. You might want to run first." I say that obviously very casually and lightheartedly because it's work. It's hard. And as just with anything in life, being able to accept change and grow with change and having that growth mindset and forward thinking mindset. Nowadays, I feel like everyone has a podcast. And I think it's awesome. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think people wanting to sit down and share what's on their mind outside of what we see in a uniform. It's a change up. It's awesome, right? But with that has come the different side of things in terms of access. You mentioned guest booking. We've struggled with that. I'll be honest. We've struggled with that large in part because my guys in particular, Perk has brought a different, which I'm very thankful for. He's brought a different side of just not really having his guard up, and he'll ask whoever he wants. He's not afraid to. But I've navigated Rich and Channing wanting to massage their relationships with teammates and current players differently. Not wanting to bother them or whatever approach that may be. So whether you do hire a talent booker, whether you have to put that in the hands of someone else, but at the end of the day, we all are operating on four different schedules. I mean, Rich being the face of the NBA with ESPN, Perk, every single day you turn on ESPN, he is on that freaking television. Channing his shift from Turner to where his next stop is. Like nothing's easy. His endeavors with Chosen Family Wine. Mine with Spectrum and now Amazon. Like we have to coordinate times, which I will give a little secret. I'm not sure when this is getting posted, but we're launching Tuesday, Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time from our studios here in LA that have been built for Road Trippin. So we're gonna turn it up a notch. We're gonna have more episodes. Not to mention Perk will have his unplugged every Sunday, his rant, 30 minutes. Channing is doing his own special segment as well. So it's definitely growing and getting bigger. And that's because we had those growing pains over the last handful of years of really establishing who we are, transitioning from the casual getting off an airplane, checking into a hotel, grabbing the $15 freaking peanut M&Ms in our little concierge fridge that we have to actually having to sit down and recognize that if we want this to be successful, it's going to become a business. And that's what Road Trippin has. And we're thankful for our production company now, Rain Delay, who has helped to shoulder so much of the behind the scenes to make and allow us to be able to sit down come October 16th, be together Tuesday, Thursday, twice a week to deliver an actual, to your point, Road Trippin show. So right
Nice.
now we are with Rain Delay
Mhm,
Media Productions.
mhm.
So they are doing everything from the behind the scenes to the editing to helping now. We have a little bit more, it's not scripted, but more of a structure because I think what we've learned too is the more topics you can hit, the more engaged you have your audience, right? And there's a lot of things to get through. So from all of that, the day to day where we really are showing up as people who want to sit down, tell our stories, and I hate to use the word talent. Everyone's talented in their own right, but those that are in front of the camera. So yeah, we are with Rain Delay, and we're growing. We're excited about it. But yeah, we'll see what happens next. As we all know, I think you cut out a little bit there. Are you still there? Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm right here. I'm right here. Yeah.
okay. So, I mean, everyone, it's very well documented, obviously, the relationship aspect from Richard and Channing, right? They go way back to their teenage years. They've grown up together. They're very well connected, not only personally, but also professionally and throughout their NBA careers. So I think early on in those stages with Road Trippin, there was still an element of like, even for myself, getting to know them. But when I think of Road Trippin now from 2017, 8 years later, and it's felt this way for a while, but we're family. That's what Road Trippin is. And I think that's also such a beautiful thing of all of this is to think about where we started. There were moments, like I'll be honest and candid about it, because this is not easy, but throughout the COVID time and trying to manage and adjust from that situation of things that were going on bigger than a podcast, to guys retiring, being on different teams, breaking into new industries, my life changing, coming out to LA, all of these things. There were moments where we've had conversations that just kind of brought us back to why we started to begin with and how much we've grown. But a lot of it came down to we wanted to work with each other. We wanted to come to work, sit down for an hour, let off some steam, tell some jokes, have some fun. And within that, we now have a text chain that goes daily. I mean, it is probably the busiest message, text message, if you will, in my phone. It's always going off, and it's Perk, Channing, and myself and Richard. And it's just nonstop. And every single time we think, over the last couple of years until now, do we keep this going? What's our commitment? Do we want to keep Road Trippin going? And the answer has always been yes. And I think that that's part of that evolution, right? But at the end of the day, it's because we care about each other as people, and we've taken the time to do that. I've gone and I've vacationed with Channing and his family. He's embraced me and welcomed me, his wonderful wife Lauren, their kiddos. They've allowed me to stay at their home. We have planned, like, Vegas Summer League has become a huge thing for us. And we may only get 1 to 3 to 4 guests in a 48-hour period. But at the end of the day, we choose to have dinners at night, break bread, enjoy wine. And I think that that is a strong reason why Road Trippin is still where it's at today. Is through all of that evolution, we just want to show up for each other. And we just care about each other. And it truly has just become family.
That's really hard being the only ones, basically.
Yeah, I think it feels like everyone has a microphone. And I say that like truly with the biggest smile on my face, because everyone's entitled to it, and everyone entitled to it from a standpoint of like, yeah, if you want to sit down and you want to talk about your story and you want to have fun with it, like, more power to you, right? I've always said, like, one of the things that I've appreciated, because I've had an up close seat to LeBron from 2014 until now of 2015, so over a decade. But I will say, back in those Cleveland days, LeBron spoke every single day. And I think that there is something so valuable to that, because you control your narrative. Whatever that narrative looks like, you have an opportunity to have your handprint on what's being said about you, what's being said about your team, whatever it is that matters most to you, right? And I think that there's something to be said about that in the broadcasting and podcasting space. I think with players feeling this opportunity to be able to kind of talk and get things off their chest or say how they feel, or, a lot of times no one does know their story, right? Or get it right. And I think that I say this with like all due respect of just like, I want to hear from them then, and I think players and athletes wanting to sit down and feel empowered to do that. Sometimes it can go a little sideways, but hey, we all learn from it, and we all learn to navigate that. So I just think having access to the, like, directly to the individual is how the podcast game in particular has changed. Access that we fight for, that looks different from a broadcaster back in 2012, over a decade ago, to where it is now. I also think, we just talked about it on Road Trippin this week. I use an example of NBC and their opportunity to kind of do something different with 24 of their games this year, putting the analyst close to the bench versus next to the play-by-play for a different kind of insight and view into things. That's being okay to fail, or being okay with stepping outside of the box. Let me get this right. Stepping outside of the box, doing things differently, knowing that it may not work out, but you're trying to give us more insight or better access or an inside look into what you don't get as a fan. And I think players have control of that with podcasting. I think that's grown over the years, and I think it's happening on the broadcast side too. I know with Amazon, I am so excited to work on be a part of the NBA family there because they're ready to do things differently. They're ready to have like they want to have fun, just like a broadcast can be. But they're going to try new things as well. And I think that just being willing to kind of take a step outside of the box is where I see change happening. And I think it's fun. I think it's awesome. Player interview bucket lists. Um, okay, so I'm still gonna lean into, and I think I've said this before, I want Shaq on our podcast. I would love for Shaq on the podcast. I would love for Michael Jordan on the podcast. There were others over the course of the year. Obviously, we've had a front row seat to Kyrie and to LeBron. Um, to just the Cavs camaraderie during that championship run. I mean, at one point, one of our most epic podcasts was LeBron, Kyrie, Tristan, JR, Channing, Richard, all at once in the air on an airplane, traveling from Boston to Atlanta. I mean, it doesn't get better than that in my eyes. But I probably if I'm shooting for the stars and going bucket list, those are probably two of my favorites on top of that.
And as a broadcaster, what do you like to? I mean, you're the first woman to, I believe, what call Lakers game, and
Yeah.
you've hit many milestones. What's the next ones?
Yeah, for the first time in my career, this fall, obviously, as I've touched on, I'll be joining the Amazon family. So it's truly my first crack at a national opportunity on the national stage. It's also taking me more so back inside the arena. I'm there as a reporter, oftentimes for the Lakers, but that's for pre and post. This is for the actual game. So getting me back into where I was when I started my career with the Cavs as a sideline reporter. I'm a hooper. So at the end of the day, I love the X's and O's. I love being in the trenches. I want the adrenaline rush. I want the expectations and the standards that I've held for myself. So to see where that can go, I really want the opportunity to just see what I can do with that and be surrounded by. We've had our Amazon seminar, such wonderful talent and people with that family. I'm excited to get to know them, to grow as a broadcaster. But then also with the podcast, I think we've shown that we're not going anywhere. We don't want to go anywhere but up. And we're going to put our heads down and see what can happen with Road Trippin and continue to deliver that on a weekly basis. So, yeah, we'll see where it
That,
takes me. I've always said when I got into the business, I'm not here to be famous. I just want to be successful. And whatever that looks like, putting my best foot forward, head down, grinding, is what it'll be. I have it. I didn't understand it in the moment because I wanted to make sure I knew what the hell I was doing and not screwing it up for my people. Um, but the Tim Duncan episode, yeah, it was early on. I think it was within the first 20, maybe 30 episodes. Richard is a former teammate. Shout out to Rich. He's also doing the Richard show and just had launched a cool episode with Tim about a year and a half ago. But dating back to 2012, 2013, I'll never forget it. We landed in San Antonio. Rich had set it up. The team went one way. Channing, Richard, and I and Rafa got in a car on the tarmac and we drove to the Spurs practice facility where Tim was meeting us. And as we pull in, he is pulling in right in front of us on a motorcycle. And we go in. I think it was probably in just like the lounge area of the players' facility area, and we sat there. And it was my first time ever getting to meet Tim, ever getting to like sit down and actually just listen to the brilliance of this man, who is a man of very few words. For those that obviously watch his career and so forth, and it's truly one of my favorite episodes. Um, so I've got to say Tim Duncan. I don't know if we'll ever have a chance to have him back on. Um, but if he ever wanted to come on, we would take him gladly with open arms. So that's probably my favorite.
has that you would have
Uh,
imagined?
Kobe, my very first year in the league. And you know, you could say this about LeBron, but there was the sidebar with LeBron is we're both from Ohio. And I watched him growing up. I went and watched his tournament games, and stuff like that. And I think that was more of an appreciation pinch me. Holy shit, I get to cover this man. Like that was awesome, right? The Kobe element was 2012, my very first year in the league. I was asked to go. The Lakers were in town. It was coming off the summer where Kyrie had challenged him at Team USA. And Kobe, they were there for a shoot around, and my producer asked me to go and get sound. And I remember standing on the outside of the scrum, being so scared to ask a question, out of starstruck, out of like, holy crap, that's Kobe Bryant. And the Cavs ended up winning that night, and I got to do a fun walk-off interview with Kyrie. But the arena was packed. The Cavs didn't win many games that year. The arena was packed that night. I'll never forget it. It was in November. And yeah, that he's another one. Kobe's another one. Um, I, I think it's probably because it's at unique parts of my career so far. I've been doing this for 13 years. My first moment, I'll give you my first moment that I had it in Cleveland was more so a holy shit, if you don't approach this with the right mentality, this will pass you by. That was LeBron's return to Cleveland when he announced his return, and I had to drive to Cleveland to literally stand outside of the arena on that July summer afternoon and give reports about the buzz and the electricity of the city, right? The electricness of the city. Opening up that year with the Knicks and just the hype and everything around that. That was a moment for me. Um, when I got the job offer to move for the very first time outside of the state of Ohio to Los Angeles, and shifted my toolbox, if you will, as a broadcaster from just sideline in Cleveland to now being a studio host, to that moment of calling the Lakers game in Utah on February 14th. I'll never forget it. The butterflies, the energy, the feeling that I got within my soul of just another opportunity, don't let it pass you by. And it's not that I'm successful, but that I'm taking the right steps and putting the work behind it, to achieve what I ultimately want to achieve, and that's to be successful. You know, I've not had an I've made it, I've done it, I've arrived moment, which is a good thing for me, right? Because that means I'm still hungry and I'm eager. But I've had a few moments along the way that have stood out to me, and have helped to either motivate, keep me going, inspire myself, on the daily, reminding myself of that I belong, that I'm here, you know, and I'm excited to be here. So yeah. Um, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. I think I say that from a standpoint of before I even started, I didn't think I could make it. I didn't understand that new beginnings, new challenges comes with the ups and downs and the bumps in the road. But with each hurdle that I faced, whether it be being denied while getting my master's for any kind of opportunity, for whatever reason. I mean, I kind of heard it all, but like, you know, it just wasn't, to your point, it wasn't the right time. The timing was not it, right? To my very first preseason game in Philadelphia with the Cavs on the sideline, I walked off camera during my hit. My producer said in my ear, Allie, you're a broadcaster. You have to stay on camera. Um, to saying the wrong team name on the very first road trip, with the Cavs out here in LA. I said we were playing the Bucks and we were definitely playing the Clippers. And people saying I should be fired. The social media trolls. To not knowing what was next, right? To like thinking that I was ready for that national opportunity, but it didn't come when I wanted it to come. It came when it was supposed to. And so I think I was very hard on myself early. And so if I could give myself starting out a little piece of advice, like It's okay. Give it some grace. Give yourself some space. Be kind to yourself because there's so much outside noise and outside pressure. And I get it. A lot of that is why I sign up to do what I do. The adrenaline rush to feed off of all of that. But at the same time, like you got to take care of you, like and be kind to yourself. Give yourself some grace. If one door closes, it's just an opportunity for another door to open. It wasn't your door. But if you're truly passionate about it, keep going, keep walking. And I think that that truly has been something that I've lived by. And when I look back now, I wish I would have known that then. I would have saved
That's
myself a lot of stress. In our profession. Someone once told me it takes a different level of confidence to put yourself in front of the camera, to put yourself out there in front of strangers, in front of what are we calling them now? Bots every single day. And to not dive into it, right? Like we say it all the time. You can get 100 compliments, but that one negative comment that you get, you're going to focus on and you're going to spend all your time and waste all your energy. Um, I'll tell you the evolution of that. After my very first year on air in Cleveland, I went and got a tattoo. Because after every hit I did on camera, my first year, I would go sit down. I can only hold the camera in my right hand. It's a weird thing. I don't know what it is. But I would go sit down. I would have my mic in my right hand, and I would pick up my phone with my left hand, and I would search my name. For what? I didn't know better. I didn't have the confidence that it took, that level of confidence that it took to be headstrong and to just focus on the work and not care about, people who, what's that quote? You should never take advice from people or criticism from people you wouldn't ask advice from. That's big, right? And that's true. And so I went and I got a tattoo on my wrist after my first year. It was my very first tattoo. And it was just a cross. And it was just a reminder every time I picked up my phone, don't search your name. You're here because you belong here. God put you here, Allie. Like he gave you this opportunity. Why waste it on things that is not going to help benefit your energy or your success? So from then to now, I hardly search my name. If I search my name, it's because I'm bored. And I've leaned on so many people in our profession, our business that say the same thing, that have been through it, that have been through the ringer. You got to remember why you're here and focus and lean on the work that put you here, and the people around you that are going to make you better. And that's unfortunately not always the people on X or on Instagram. It's easy. It's easy to get caught up in all the love and the compliments, but like, as athletes always say, the more you're able to stay even keeled, I also have a tattoo now of just like riding the wave, like ride the wave. Clearly, this profession has had a profound impact on my life that I'm permanently putting it on my body. But yeah, social media is social media. It has its benefits. I will say that. But the more you're able to lean away from things that don't benefit you through social media, I think the better off you can be.